This report includes a huge swath of macroeconomics, such as the effects of tax reform, a new industrial policy, and understanding how to deal with the uncertainty inherent in global financial market. But it also covers key areas of microeconomic policies, such as boosting laggard rates of productivity.
Many individuals have unwittingly contributed to this book through sharing ideas with us as colleagues, students, practitioners, tourists, and residents of destination areas. They are too numerous to thank individually, and indeed, it is not possible to isolate exactly their specific contributions.
It is normally expected that the final version of your thesis, which must be submitted to the university library in both hard copy and electronic form, will be freely available to the public. Once in the library, your thesis may be consulted, borrowed, and copied in accordance with the regulation.
The committee would also like to express its gratitude to the independent assessors who joined the committee for consideration of each case. Their expertise and advice play a vital role in our work. A list of independent assessors who attended meetings during this reporting year is included at Appendix.
We can see from the X-rays that at an early stage of painting, a window was painted at the left of the portrait. It seems that there may have been two windows in the initial design for the portrait, or that the window was moved at an early stage.
Environmental, individual, and social traits of free-ranging raccoons influence performance in cognitive testing. Shy raccoons are better learners than bold ones, a result that has implications for our relationship with urban wildlife.
Researchers found that couples with higher satisfaction in relationship had greater neural synchronization while watching marriage-related clips, but they don't know whether there is selection-based behaviors arising from similar brain activity, or whether couples evolve over time to develop it.
Association between meat's diet and depression. Participants who excluded meat from their diet were found to have a higher prevalence of depressive episodes as compared to participants who consumed meat. This association is independent of socioeconomic, lifestyle factors, and nutrient deficiencies.
COVID-19 pandemic is linked to early onset of puberty in some girls. Several studies suggest that the number of girls starting puberty early has more than doubled amid the coronavirus outbreak, and experts are unsure about exactly why.
Every few seconds, our eyelids automatically shutter and our eyeballs roll back in their sockets. So why doesn't blinking plunge us into intermittent darkness and light? New research shows that the brain works extra hard to stabilize our vision despite our fluttering eyes. When our eyeballs roll back in their sockets during a blink, they don't always return to the same spot when we reopen our eyes.
The role of women in promoting voluntary medical male circumcision uptake. Research reveals the important role played by women in influencing men to undergo circumcision. Women are also motivated to convince men to undergo male circumcision because of the benefits associated with them, such as reduction of HIV transmission and cervical cancer.
In every cultivated language, there are two great classes of words which, taken together, comprise the whole vocabulary. First, there are those words with which we become acquainted in daily conversation, which we learn from the members of our own family and from our familiar associates, and which we should know and use even if we could not read or write them.
When someone commits a criminal act, we always hope the punishment will match the offense. But when it comes to one of the cruelest crimes, animal fighting, things rarely work out that way. Dog-fighting victims are tortured and killed for profit and sport, yet their criminal abusers often receive a minimal sentence for causing a lifetime of pain.
Bolstered by the result of laboratory experiments, researchers dare to say that gaming might be mentally enriching. These scholars are the first to admit that games could be addictive, and indeed part of their research explores how games connect to the reward circuit of human beings.
Despite many similarities with literary political debates in other nations, there are also ways in which the cultural and political situation in Scotland has left the study of Scottish literature in a significantly different condition from that of literary studies in many other parts of the world.
An environment of rapid change, technological innovations, and increasing business competitiveness has highlighted the growing importance of management development. In particular, the general movement towards great employee involvement and making things happen through people has emphasized an integrating rather than a controlling style of management. The central idea of this book concerns our blindness with respect to randomness, particularly the large deviations. Why do we, scientists or non-scientists, hotshots or regular Joes, tend to see the pennies instead of the dollars? Why do we keep focusing on the minutiae, not the possible significant large events, in spite of the obvious evidence of their huge influence?
Psychology is the study of cognitions, emotions, and behavior. Psychologists are involved in a variety of tasks. Many spend their careers designing and performing research to understand how people behave in specific situations, how and why we think the way we do, and how emotions develop and what impact they have on our interactions with others.
Efficiency is not your friend when it comes to cognitive growth. In order to keep our brains making new connections and keep them active, you need to keep moving on to another challenging activity as soon as you reach the point of mastery in the one you were engaging in.
Using artificial intelligence, researchers can create photorealistic images from three-dimensional scenery, paving the way for better driving simulators and better testing of driverless cars.
Political scholars had historically recognized the social love of the mass media. The impact of the mass media on the election and governing process has greatly increased over the last 50 years. Tomorrow, the mass media will become the central nervous system for your society and the major source of public information. Summer research scholarships offer a unique opportunity for external organizations, academics, and students to work together in research. Working with globally recognized researchers in a local setting, students gain valuable real-world experience as well as an insight into what research is all about.
Changes in climate effect, for example, the plant and animal life of a given area. The presence of coal beds in North America and Europe, along with evidence of glaciation in these same areas, indicates that they must have experienced alternately warmer and colder climates than they now possess.
To prevent mosquito-transmitted diseases, approaches based on genetic control of insect populations are being developed. However, many of these strategies are based on highly invasive, self-propagating transgens that can rapidly spread the trait into other populations of mosquitoes.
Investigations like this one have been plodding along for 40 years, and some studies, like one following the deadly Kobe quake in 1995, have found similar correlations. But study author Aloud Skelton, a professor of geochemistry at Stockholm University, says the unpredictable study subject makes it tough to get funding because you can in no way guarantee a result. So you get 3 years of money. But if there's no earthquake, James Webb Space Telescope was specifically designed to observe this light, which comes from some, the oldest galaxies to take form. How did early stars and galaxies take shape? What about the cosmic material that is undetectable, known as dark matter? Is there evidence for it in the early ends of the universe? These are some of the perplexing and fascinating questions that astronomers can begin unraveling with Webb.
To withstand the forces of nature and the huge forces the rotation itself generates, blades are manufactured with a multilayer coat of armor. Typically, the outer layer erodes during operation and the inner layers can become detached. Although the lifespan of a turbine is theoretically 25 years, current medium-sized systems typically require extensive maintenance at about 10 years due to blade deterioration.
Online speech has become such an influential way of experiencing politics today, not just participating in democratic processes like elections, but also the way we lead our daily democratic life through digital communication. If these sorts of irreverent and vitriolic exchanges are so prominent online, then we need to see how we can bring nuance to understanding them.
The robotic system is composed of a floating platform with 8 cables that are connected to a mobile robot that will move around on the seafloor beneath it to collect waste items in a box using a gripper, hook or suction device depending on the size of the litter. The orientation of the robot can be controlled by adjusting the tension of the cables.
The use of technologies for the inclusion and empowerment of persons with disabilities is not new, from the creation of Braille and the first hearing aid to the invention of the wheelchair. For disabled persons, new assistive technology can make all the difference. While technology and innovation are breaking down the barriers to achieving full participation.
There are other components, aside from the wheels and rails, that add to the noise a train makes when it passes. Older trains had their air conditioning units underneath the carriage, but modern trains have been lowered to allow people with less mobility to enter the carriage more easily. As a result, air conditioning units are now on top of the carriage, where they add to the train noise.
Housing fulfills the basic needs that people have for security, privacy, and shelter. While the adequacy of housing is an important component of individual well-being, housing also has great impact on the nation's economy, with its influence on investment levels, interest rates, building activity, and employment.
I've seen no evidence to suggest that students are not able to complete their courses because they're failing in English, yet they're being passed by the universities, she said. I've not seen any evidence to back that up. International education is one of our largest exports. It's our fourth largest export, and it's in the interest of our universities to maintain very high standards because their reputation is at stake.
There are, of course, intercultural difficulties as well as language difficulties, he said. There are, of course, also many Australian students don't speak such fantastically good English either.
Domestic violence increased during lockdown in the United States. A new study, published in Psychology of Violence, looks at rates of intimate partner violence during the pandemic in the United States. Like data from the UK, it suggests that domestic violence increased during lockdown.
Do something you are very passionate about and do not try to chase what is considered the hot passion of the day. People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing. And it's totally true. You have to do it over a sustained period of time. So, if you don't love it, you're going to give up.
Many families are fleeing their native countries due to sectarian repression and political uprisings. Consequently, thousands of people have been stranded in foreign lands for months. Other families have gone missing in the sea, marooned in small boats, as the neighboring foreign countries refuse to take them in.
A series of camel sculptures carved into rock faces in Saudi Arabia are likely to be the oldest large-scale animal reliefs in the world, study says. When the carvings were first discovered in 2018, researchers estimated they were created about 2,000 years ago. This was based on their similarity to relief at Jordan's famous ancient city of Petra.
Since the Soviet Union successfully launched the first man-made satellite, Sputnik 1, in 1957, about 5,000 more satellites have been put into orbit around the Earth. About 2,000 of these are active, and although the rest are now dysfunctional, they remain in orbit, together with parts from all the rockets that carried them there. These remnants are often referred to as space junk, space trash, or orbital debris.
Change is inevitable in any sphere of life, although the results of change can bring great benefits. The process of change can be intensely traumatic, involve loss of choice, power and status, and when change happens in the workplace, it can even lead to loss of jobs. Many businesses and organizations use a model called the change curve to understand and manage how people react to change.
In 1994, Microsoft's founder, Bill Gates, said that although banking is necessary, banks are really not. At a time when many traditional institutions and ways of doing things are changing, banking is changing too. There are now new ways of accessing loans and lending money, thanks to the rise of alternative finance. People can raise and invest money outside the traditional banking system